Welcome, sales leaders, to Sales Team Rescue. Today, I have another amazing special guest. Our guest today is Charlene DeCesare. Charlene is the founder of a unique sales advisory firm called Firewalk Sales. She has been a sales leader and trusted advisor for 25 years, with a specialty in helping sellers of high-value services grow their business in a way that is real, easy, and very powerful. Charlene is a certified brain-based success coach, a certified sales leader, and she also wrote the book on sales outreach called The Email Cemetery, Where Bad Sales Emails Go to Die and How to Resuscitate Yours. Welcome, Charlene.
My pleasure. Glad to be here.
Awesome. And yeah, I love the plug for the book. The book is phenomenal. I started reading it this morning, and I have a physical copy on order right now. And you mentioned earlier that you've got the audiobook version coming out.
I do, yes. So the audiobook is being recorded as we speak and should be available within the next couple of months. So I'm very excited about that because I consume all books through audiobook. So it was a must-have on my list.
I love it. I love it. So Charlene, tell us a little bit about your journey and how you got to be in this position that you're in now.
Yeah, I've been in sales for a very long time. And initially, even at the age of 16, it was just my first job. Worked in different sales roles and in high school and college, and actually got a degree in communication disorders with the thought that I would work with deaf children or be a sign language interpreter. Who knew what that was going to lead to? But then when I didn't get into graduate school, or didn't get money actually for graduate school, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to go out there and just give it a shot. And it's just the thing that I find comes naturally to me. And I worked in startup organizations. I've worked in multi-billion-dollar companies. I've been that bag-carrying salesperson with a $38 million quota. And I've been a sales leader of teams, kind of a little bit of everything. And have been on my own now for about five and a half-ish years. Yep.
Awesome. So you work with sales teams and small business owners, solopreneurs, the whole 9 yards when it comes to sales and improving their sales. And out of all the parts of the sales process and the dynamics around sales, what made you decide to write your book on email outreach?
So the obsession with emails actually came as a buyer, as I started to build my brand, put myself out there. I have a very big social footprint, as people watching this will know. I'm everywhere from Facebook to Instagram, Twitter, now TikTok. So I get solicited quite a bit for people trying to just sell me their stuff. And I almost feel like a little bad for them when they try to sell to me. But I started just keeping these emails. And initially I had a folder called my future clients folder, because somebody who can't write a good email, I feel like that's perfect client for me. That's my prospect, right?
That's awesome.
And then just one Sunday for fun, which I know this makes me sound like the biggest loser ever, that this is fun for me. But I started going through those bad emails and sort of diagnosing what made them so bad, what I would do instead. And it was actually a publisher who saw the blog and said, this should be a book. This could be really cool. And so last year I wrote the whole book in 3 months. Wow. And it was actually from the time I started it to when it was published was about 3 months, because I had so much fodder. And I get, a lot of my friends will actually send me emails. Yeah. But the real reason why I focus on emails, even in the work that I do, whether I'm training, coaching, consulting, is because an email, the message will always betray the mindset and the method or the process. So it's an incredible diagnostic tool. And I am this detective. When I read an email, I can see so much about the person who's selling and the organization they're selling for.
Nice. So I think that's huge, because throughout the sales process, whether you're in a role that is more of the closing side of things and account management side of things, or even business development, emails, especially business development, emails are so important, so vital. And I know time and time again, I talk to clients and they say, well, this didn't go like I thought. And I said, did you have a conversation with them? Well, no, I sent them an email. We talk all the time about how people read whatever tone is in their head at the time when they get the email. So it's so important. So do you feel like, actually, let me back up. What do you think are maybe the three biggest, and I know you've got personas in your book, but I don't want to spoil it for the audience because I want them to go buy your book. We're going to talk about that in a second. But just tell us a little bit about some of the personas and maybe the key identifiers so that our audience might go, oh, maybe I'm that person when I go to send emails.
Yeah, and you mentioned before I work with individuals who are sort of solopreneurs, and then I also work with, enterprise sales teams, and they all make the same mistakes. So it's really interesting that there's no like boundary and even people that have been selling for a long, long time. And then I make them aware of a few little things like, oh my gosh, it's revolutionary for them. But the number one thing is really making sure that you're focusing on the people you serve and you're speaking to them, not about yourself. And this is a mindset. So as I mentioned before, you start with the mindset that it's really not about me. It's about being able to help people and get things out in the world that will make their lives better or their work better. But then when you send the email, if you notice that you're sending an email that starts with I, we, our, my, I call them ego words, and the persona in the book is the egomaniac. Mm-hmm. It's such an amazing, again, people look at this and it's such an epiphany, but if you start to read the emails you send, even actually personal emails, and if you start with I, who's the email about? Who's the topic about? Is it about you or is it about them? So just that one thing, it's so common for people to, start with that, hi, my name is, I do this, we do that, we, we love to, we like to, all that language really speaks to the egomaniac, as I say it.
Well, and and I'll jump in here for a second. It's interesting because even like we were talking about before, saying I'm jest or, I'm sorry to bug you. It's still about you. Even if you're like, oh, I'm sorry, you're so worried about someone's perception of you, and it has zero acknowledgement about them and where they're at. You're just going, oh, I think I'm being a pain, so I'm sorry, right? And I know that hinders sales because you lose the posture, right? The position of being the authority, the expert on the product or the problem you're solving, and that language is so powerful. So I'm excited to get the physical book and highlight the heck out of it.
Good. But what you just said, so I want to just anchor that a little bit because that phrase, that's actually the second most common thing is that call it the apologizer, the sorry to bother you. That's actually a different issue. That's actually head trash that says, I'm really not that confident either in reaching out or I'm not that confident in how I'm positioning what I do. This is where those words, I'm sorry to bother you. You know what? When you really, truly believe that what you're doing is so important and there are people out there that are at a place they don't need to be because you could help them get to where they want to be, you would reach out with such confidence and such conviction that you would never apologize. Because when you're reaching out to someone, when you're quote unquote selling, your customer is not doing you a favor, right? You're helping them. And so just that shift in mindset, that's why I said the message betrays the mindset.
Yep.
Makes such a huge difference.
That's huge. Yeah, and I think this is a key part just from the psychology of selling. Because we show up in sales conversations, and if it's showing up in our emails, I'm guessing, and you tell me because this is your space of excellence here. But if it's showing up in the conversations and it's showing up in the emails, it's probably showing up in all the other parts of the sales process. Right? If you're coming in with the I'm sorry or I just need a minute of your time or that energy, I'm sure is coming through every time you engage with the client.
Yeah, and although the book's about emails, obviously what you said before is so true about you also have to pick up the phone. And in fact, the last line of the book, I don't want to spoil it for you, but the last line of the book is pick up the damn phone. You cannot create a whole relationship over email. It's a fast track to a transactional relationship. And what you want is a transformational relationship. And your goal in sending those first emails it's really to get a conversation because the conversation is where the magic happens, right? So part of what I see happen is people rely way too much on email And, they end up with long emails, lots of links and attachments, all of that. But yeah, it really is sort of starting with that idea that you were trying to get to a conversation, for sure.
Awesome. So I want to go back to the book again for a second, because early on in the book, very early on in the book, you shared a story. And it has to do with one of the maybe the earliest lesson that you can recall. And I would love if you shared that, because I think it reflects, I think we can all resonate with it. And it reflects on so many components of our life. So please, if you don't mind, share that story with the audience.
Yeah, and it really, this, I'm sort of known for saying that I like to make sales fun and easy. And, that's not to be confused with the fact that it's not also work. My dad always would stress the difference between hard work and struggle. And I see a lot of people struggling where they don't need to. And the story you're referring to is when I was like, 3 years old or something. I had one of those little pound-a-peg toys, where you have like a little wooden mallet, you're trying to put a little peg in these holes. And I won't say the whole phrase, although this is Facebook, I probably get away with it. But then on your podcast,
there's a button where I can say has explicit language.
Explicit language with the adult version. But anyway, so as I was doing it, I was like, oh bleep, I can't get this bleeping thing in here. That was like my first full sentence. And it may not surprise any of my friends that there were multiple expletives in my first full sentence of my whole life. But my dad, said, hey, look, you just kind of like line it up and it should go in easy. It's designed to go in easy. And if you're forcing it, you're doing it wrong. And that lesson, if you're forcing it, you're doing it wrong. I'll tell you what, if he had told me that before my first marriage, I could have saved myself a couple of years probably and many other things in my life. But yeah, it's just, I think when, take the struggle, the procrastination, the angst and say, like, if you're feeling all those things, if it feels like you're forcing something, there's probably a better way to do it. Take that step back, just like I had to do when, I was 3 years old. Take that step back, realign, right? And then move forward. And most of the time, the corrections I'm making when I'm coaching is people are putting way too much pressure on themselves. They're working way too hard. They're doing way too much, way too soon. And it doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, I think that's so powerful. And I know you even referenced, like, if sales is tough for you, if sales is hard, you don't like the cold calling or the outreach. And I want to ask you about that even more. And because reading through the book inspired a thought in me. I'm typically a guy that really does not enjoy cold outreach. I used to use the word hate. I just don't like that word. So I'll just say I don't enjoy it. But do you think somebody can be trained to love outreach?
So short answer is yes, because the thing, again, the reason, well, I guess let me ask you, what made you hate it? There we go. So we were talking, I think we just went offline for a second. So you mentioned you hated, or you strongly dislike, or don't love, I forget what you were, but you didn't like, cold calling or reaching out to strangers. What didn't you like about it?
You know what? It's because I kept getting in my head, and it became about the rejection on me. And at the end of the day of doing, like, just outreach call after outreach calls, I just get exhausted after enough people don't answer. Or that's the biggest thing. If somebody speaks to me, that's fine. But it's like just the silence. I feed off other people's energy.
Yeah.
And so I something about how I interpret what this is doing, me putting in the effort and not getting people answering, feels to me like it drains my energy.
Yeah. So there's actually two elements there. So one is what gives you energy, and figuring out a way to sort of self-sustain while you're going through that process. That's why I do focus a lot on personal development. And a lot of people think I'm like this motivational speaker, and I do incorporate those elements because, being able, first of all, sales is tough. And if you're a business owner or an entrepreneur, it's not an easy gig. Like, you're definitely going to have people who are going to judge you. People aren't going to support you. People will reject you. Ideally, if it's a customer who's rejecting you or a prospect, by the time they reject you, I always say you will agree with them. I've never had anybody tell me no that I wasn't like, you're right. I actually don't want to work with you either. Because if I really felt like they needed me so much, I just wouldn't take their no for an answer. And we would get to the reason why it made so much sense for them to work with me. That's not a rejection of me, but that's one issue. I think the other thing that happens is people think that when they pick up the phone, and even in your case, you're actually different because you fear somebody not answering. The majority of people probably fear someone answering, and then they do the right? Like it's being put on the spot.
I do that on the first time in a calling session. The first time somebody answers, I do actually do that the first time.
Yeah,
it's like a reset, but yeah.
I've done that. I've left voicemails many times in my career where I was like, so I'm going to stop talking now and call me back, right? Or never call me back because, okay,
where's that button to re-record? Where's that button?
Yeah, exactly. I think it's like one of those episodes of Friends, but
right.
But really, just remember, and for anybody who's watching this or listening to this, your goal is not to sell. That's why, so take that pressure off. We know based on data, it takes 7 to 12 touches in order to close a deal. So if you can do it in one, God bless you. It means you're probably either like, I don't know, unbelievably magic, or you have a business that's more like, welcome to Burger King, may I take your order? Which is great. You can put your thing out there and somebody says, yes, I'd like to buy that right now. Great, like go for it. But for most of us, that's not the reality of the world we live in. It's going to take building the relationship, sort of maybe a proposal, overcoming objections. There's a whole long process. So your only and first goal is to have a meaningful conversation with someone that you think you might have something to talk about. There's some connection that you want to make. There's some value that you can offer each other. So just take the pressure off, make connections with interesting people, and just be a person. And if you're not comfortable just being a person and you don't feel confident about being who you are, work on that before you try to worry about selling anything, right? If you show up as someone who really cares about others, really has something to offer, or at least, understands that every connection can be valuable. And so the way I position it is it's a conversation where I get to learn a little bit more about you. Here's the reason why I think there might be something here. I'm happy to share a little bit about me if it's helpful. And then we'll mutually decide on next steps, if any. There may not be any, we'll figure that out together and then we'll go from there. So there's no pressure on either of our parts.
I love it. So Charlene, and you've given a lot of great suggestions, a lot of great advice. And I feel like the audience has a good feel for your approach and your style. And if they're like me, they're huge fans of yours already.
Yay.
But now I want to dig a little deeper.
Stop, go on. No, sorry.
Yeah, tell me more, yeah.
Well, enough about me. What do you want to know about me?
Yeah. I want to take you into the lightning round.
Oh gosh, okay.
So, Charlene, we both know that the coffee is for closers.
I love it.
Tell me, what is your favorite kind of coffee or comparable drink?
Yeah, so I drink a healthy coffee. Some people know I do a lot of coaching with people who are in network marketing and direct sales. And so years ago, I used to sell a brand of coffee that has this thing called Ganoderma lucidum in it. Nobody knows what that is. It's basically mushroom. You do know what that is?
I do, yeah.
Yay. So I drink a mushroom coffee. So it is sort of interesting, but I'll tell you what, I'm a huge fan. I actually don't sell it anymore, but I'm a customer and that's my coffee and super easy. It's like everything else I do. And it's unique and delicious. How's that?
I love it. I actually have a package still in the kitchen right now that I still have to go and drink. I found it of the last package that I got. And so yeah, I love my coffee and I couldn't not give it a try. Right?
Sweet.
Awesome. Now, what is the number one book or movie that you would recommend to a sales leader?
So we're going to assume that my book is on that list, right? But beyond that, I am a huge fan of Brandon Sanderson. Okay. And he's sort of it's actually fiction. And the reason why I say that's my recommendation is I feel like so many people get stuck in like, I have to read business books. And I'll tell you, what you want to do is wake up your brain, wake up your imagination, get excited about what you're reading. And to me, Brandon Sanderson has this whole like world. It's actually is literally a universe called the Cosmere. And he has a series of books that start with the Stormlight Archives. And he's just a genius writer. He inspires the imagination. And I'll tell you, if you're a leader or a person who wants to create innovative ideas or write or create great content, reading a book that inspires you, that's well written, has great characters and great worlds and language and all of that, it's like the best thing ever.
I love it. Does he have audiobooks too?
It's all, yes, all on audiobook. I do a lot of audio.
You and I are about to become best friends.
Yeah.
Just going to share books back and forth on Audible here.
There you go. Yeah, so
awesome.
Audiobooks. And I will also say, if anybody is on Goodreads, you can connect with me on Goodreads. I do leave reviews for all the books that I listen to or read. And for people that don't know, Goodreads is like the Facebook of books. So you can friend people, you write reviews, you can see what other people have reviewed, and you kind of get to know what kind of books people like, and you know which of your friends like the same books you like. So when you want to read something new, you just go look at what I do is I go look at my friends' books, and I'm like, oh, cool, she liked that book, I bet I will too, and then go from there.
Awesome. So who is someone that you would consider to be a mentor in your life?
Yeah, it's interesting. I used to always say my dad. He passed away sadly in 2010. I used to say, here's my mentor, my hero, like the person I could talk to about like all my business stuff or my anything really. But really, I have a great mentor from my Gartner days, who I still keep in touch with. And then now it's really about my peer mentors. It's about my mastermind friends, like my friend Callie, who might be watching this right now. She and I do calls every couple of weeks together and just brainstorm ideas. And we're in very different businesses. But just having someone that I can, dare to be ugly, put out my ideas. She'll tell me if it's stupid. She'll tell me if it's great. And I think it's stupid. She's the one that helped me come up with that idea. That I think I mentioned to you earlier, where it's like a deck of cards, and each card has on one side, the deadly sin of emails, like that, those words that you don't want to say, and then on the other side is what to say instead. Because it's easy for me to say, never say, I'm just following up, but then people say, well, what do I say instead? So on the other side, it would say, when we last spoke, you mentioned that. So anyway, so that is another product that I'm working on right now. That's coming out in a couple of months, but I would never have come up with that on my own. I needed my mentor, my friend, to come up with that. I
love it. I'm excited to. I'm going to buy those cards too, just because I love having other people's minds to supplement, my experience as well.
Yeah, same.
Email is not a place that I've considered myself overly strong from a focus perspective. So yeah, I'm very intrigued for those cards. And again, and the book, guys, you guys gotta. Well, I'm going to tell you in a second where to go to get the book. If you're watching, it is on the screen scrolling across, but we'll share it again in a second for the listeners. But I do want to ask you the final question of the lightning round. What's the strangest thing you do in your daily routine to keep you on your game?
So my Instagram friends probably would guess this, but I salute the sun every morning. So I'm an early riser. I wake up before the sun rises. And then as it's sort of peeking up, I also live on a lake. So the view is like unbelievably beautiful. And it never ceases to inspire me. I'm excited to wake up every day. I feel sort of honored and blessed to have a new day. And I know this probably sounds like a little corny, but the keen sense of my own mortality is really what drives me every day. And so, yeah, waking up, watching the sun come up, and I do this weird little thing. And I'm sure I look like a lunatic to my neighbors, but you know what? It works for me. It gives me energy for the day. Even if I wake up in kind of a funk, I do that sort of breathing. And then this is going to make me sound even crazier, but then I balance my chakras, which I know is like, some of my friends will be like, yeah, you go girl. And other friends are like, okay. But yeah, so I have like a whole morning routine. I'm big into affirmations, and I believe in it because it has been like night and day in my life. And I have to say my life right now is sort of an embarrassment of riches in a time when I know a lot of people are suffering and not doing well and struggling. and, just so much going on in the world. And I feel like I work really hard every day to create the experience of a life I want to live and that I want to create for my family and the people I love. So it starts, though, first thing in the morning. Thank you, son. Thank you for rising. Glad to be here. Amen.
Amazing. 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 So, Charlene, how can people find more of your greatness?
Well, there's varying degrees of what that is, but, I'm easy to find. I'm everywhere online as Charlene Ignites. Mm-hmm. So as I may have mentioned before, I'm on Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok is my new little fun project. Not really a project, it's like the easiest thing ever, but for some reason my TikTok videos have been pretty popular. So yeah, and I'm, really, I practice what I preach. I'm a good steward of my own methodology. And I want to help people and I want to make connections. So whether we're friends from high school or you don't know me at all, if there's something that I can help you with, or you want to just bounce ideas off, or you're struggling with something, please reach out to me. Let's have that conversation. And if I can be helpful, I want to be. And then who knows where we'll go from there. But again, practicing what I preach, it's really just about having conversations, making connections.
I think we lost you for a second there.
Yep.
Gotcha. All right, perfect. So I'm going to post the link for the book in the chat as well, but it is on the screen, charleneignites.com/book. Guys, get your hands on this book. It is phenomenal. It is funny. It's entertaining. There we go. The email cemetery. I love it. And and what I find most entertaining, or at least before I get into it, was I have a training called 3 Ways to Avoid Getting Ghosted by Your Prospect, but I don't hear people using the phrase ghosted much. And then I see your tagline on your page is keep your prospects from ghosting you. So I was like, this book is exactly.
Isn't it? We're kindred spirits.
Exactly. So Charlene, thank you so much for being here on Sales Team Rescue. Guys, make sure you go and get her book, charleneignites.com/book. Grab it on Amazon. Stay tuned for the audiobook coming soon. And if you sign up for the book and sign up for all of Charlene's stuff, I'm sure she'll let you know when the cards are going to be ready too. I'm excited for those as well. So thank you so much for being on Sales Team Rescue. I greatly appreciate your time. It's a pleasure to have you here. And guys, if you want to catch the replay to this episode or replays from previous episodes, go to salesteamrescue.com. If you do want to book your sales team blueprinting session with yours truly, you can find that link also at salesteamrescue.com. And we will see you right here next Wednesday, 2 p.m. Eastern on Headspace TV. Cheers, guys.
Thank you.
Thanks.